On your left.
Right? What about the renters and the mortgage rent assistance and rent forbearance and mortgage forbearance, right? And student loan forbearance? All that forbeared payment, in other words, suspended payment, has to be repaid. Yeah, they're still on the hook. It's not as if we've given them grants that says, okay, you don't have to pay. What they owe keeps accumulating, has kept accumulating over the past year, and they're going to have to pay that at some point. It's not like the small business loans, which can easily be converted to outright grants. You don't have to pay it back. No, students and renters and households with mortgages have to pay it back. They just suspended it, that's all. See, if you're a business, you get the free money. If you're not a business, you got to pay it back. At the end of last year, there was some statistic I read that about $70 billion was owed in back rent. $70 billion. I don't know what it is here 6-7 months later, whether it's more or less, but probably somewhat more, a little bit. $70 billion back rent. Yeah. The original CARES Act, I think, provided $25 billion in rent assistance only, and that was used up during 2020, with the residual being $70 billion still owed, and then the American Rescue Plan, Biden's early March stimulus, provided, I think, another $52 billion in rental assistance, but only $47 billion has been paid. What's going on? Is this bureaucratic bungling that mainstream media would like you to think? Or is it a problem with the landlords themselves refusing to participate? I think it's significantly, partially at least, the latter. This $52 billion, 47 not spent, is supposed to go directly to the landlords. Well, why don't they want rental assistance, compensation from the government under this program? Well, they don't want it because there's strings attached. Just like big corporations didn't want to borrow the $1 trillion because there's strings attached. The strings for corporate loans, big corporate loans that was offered to them was that they had to use it to keep their workers employed. In other words, they didn't want to do that. I mean, Boeing, for example, was in big trouble last year. They were in trouble going into the crisis, and then they're in big trouble last year. They needed $50 billion, they said. And the government said, okay, here's a loan, if you want it, but you got to keep your workers employed with it. And Boeing decided, nah, we don't want the money. We're going to go raise corporate bonds with no strings attached. And they did that. At least $25 billion in corporate bonds were raised by Boeing, instead of taking the loan from the government, you see. And that was replicated across the board in many places. The airlines got $52 billion, by the way, of subsidy money from the government. $52 billion. They're supposed to keep their workers employed. Some of them did not. They took the money anyway. $52 billion bailout last year went just to the airlines. What was it, half a dozen airline companies? Yeah, pretty generous, pretty generous. Okay, so let's get back to rent and rental assistance program. We had a moratorium on evictions last year that was extended several times, and it just got extended again. It was supposed to expire on July 31st, and they extended it another couple months. I think they extended it just 2 months here because it was really embarrassing that $47 billion in rental assistance hadn't been paid, and they want a couple more months to distribute that money. But they're having problems, I think, because a lot of landlords don't want the money. Well, why don't they want the money? Well, because it's got strings attached. Like what? It's only designed to cover 80% of the rents owned. You see, 80% of the back rent. Well, they want 100%. That's one reason why they're not cooperating, landlords. You see, to apply for rental assistance, both the renter and the landlord have to file separate reports, separate claims, say. And if the landlord doesn't file the claim, well then, the money doesn't go. So 80% of back pay is one reason why some of them aren't signing, right? Also, another string is they got to give up the right to collect all back payments in the future. In other words, the 20% that the renter still has to pay. Others simply want to sell or convert their rental units. They don't want to rent anymore. They want to sell because property prices are going through the roof. They want to sell or convert to condos or whatever, right? Much more profitable. That's another reason they don't want to participate in this program, right? And they want the right going in the future that they can evict these people anyway if they miss even 1 month of rent. If they're behind even 1 month, they'll evict them again. They'll take the money, but they want to evict these people again. In other words, we'll take the money and do what we're going to do anyway. Okay, so there's a real problem here, I think, with landlords not really wanting to participate in the program. And of course, there's a difference between a landlord who rents out his one available family home. Maybe a relative had it willed to them, and they're renting it out. Small renters, small landlords, and big companies like BlackRock, that own millions now of rental units in the U.S., buying them up. BlackRock, a private equity firm, shadow bank. So, renters are taking it in ear too. They got this backlog they got to pay. The landlords don't want to take it. They're on the hook for the full 100% now. And evictions, by the way, have been occurring throughout the whole year and even last year, because all this moratorium on evictions is just for part of the rental units, 48 million rental units in the U.S. Those that in some way got some federal subsidy or support or rules are the ones that the CDC and the federal government say, okay, we got to continue the moratorium. And by the way, there's only 6 states that have all their own state moratorium on evictions. I think California, New Jersey, New York, and I forget what the others are. They're not in the South or the Midwest. So, the renters have not done well.